Hey everybody, Hero TJ here, and I'm with my good buddy
Amiibo Jason. How you doing?
We're gonna talk some Echo Fighters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yes, we are.
Every time I say the name of a Smash Bros. Game or the system that it's for, I have to pause for a second because they are all so similar.
That's true. Now, I'm afraid of this episode.
Why?
Just a heads up. Because it's Street Fighter, as you can see by the title card.
A classic fighting game, one of the best.
I know nothing about Street Fighter. I've played it. I know it takes place in a street and that you fight.
You've got the basics. That's all you really need to know. The other like signature aspect of the game is that you trot the globe, finding the best fighters in all these different cities and continents, which is kind of amazing. Like you get the best fighter from China and from Japan. Japan actually gets 2. You can also go to Thailand and the USA. So that it gives you a little bit of a tour of the world and a lot of different world martial arts in very cartoony, exaggerated styles, but it's pretty fun to play and it's pretty fun to do. I'm more classic Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I played a ton of Street Fighter 2 and a bunch of its iterations when I was growing up. Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Ultimate Super Street Fighter 2 Countdown, whatever it is.
The Pizza Hut by me had a Street Fighter cap.
Yes!
So I played it there for sure. I've played it on home consoles. I have it on the Switch. I really don't play it all that much. I suck at it. I'm absolutely terrible. But I think the good thing about this episode is this. From what I understand about Street Fighter, Ken was kind of created to sort of be an echo of Ryu to begin with. Am I right? Is it Ryu or Ryu, by the way?
I always said Ryu when I was a little kid, and then as games started to produce sounds, it's Ryu.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because I'm going to get crucified in the comments section if I do it wrong, which I'm going to get yelled at for something anyway.
At least you could say Pokemon without people giving you a hard time.
That's fun. Yeah, I say a lot of things wrong, if you know me. That's just part of who I am.
But you are dead right about that. Ken and Ryu, in the game, both have the same Grandmaster. They both train in Shotokan Karate, and which is actually the martial art that I first trained in because of Street Fighter.
Really?
Yeah, because of I always wanted to be Ryu. He's one of the first video game icons that I really identified with, that I really wanted to play as. So him getting into Smash was like, whoa, I cannot believe he's in there. And it really seemed like the impossible had been accomplished, and to think that it could go somehow beyond that is inconceivable. But then we get Simon Belmont, who has Richter Belmont, a day 1 Echo Fighter.
Who saw that coming, by the way?
I mean, I was hoping for Simon forever.
Yeah.
But the fact that he also got announced with another Belmont from the series that's an Echo Fighter, we had discussed in a previous episode of Smash Switch Speculation that we did live. Is it possible, are third-party characters eligible for Echo Fighters?
We know that now.
Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know. Yes, clearly they are. And does that then open the door to other third-party characters having Echo Fighters?
I totally think it does.
And the first one, the most obvious one, is the original Echo Fighter from the most famous fighting game of all time, Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
You have Ken.
It does make the absolute most sense. And again, from a guy that knows very, very little about Street Fighter, even I saw this one coming from a million miles away. In fact, I actually recommended the Ken article be taken by the Nintendo Wire team, even though I know very little about Street Fighter. So I am really curious to see, because I'm going to be handing the baton over to you for most of this episode, because you are the Street Fighter king.
Let's not go that far. I'm sure we have some real kings out there. I've played the game a lot, and I do understand some of the primary differences that are between Ken and Ryu. Mostly that they put a stronger emphasis on Ryu's Hadouken.
Yeah.
So he could do his normal Hadouken. You get this blue ball of energy that shoots, but he could also do like a super Hadouken, where if instead of just doing a down forward, you do back to forward and roll all the way through, he'd have a fire Hadouken, which was really big, and adding the fire did fire damage to your opponent. They'd catch in flames and not just absorb the hit. Ken had a similar thing, but it wasn't his Hadouken. He always had like an inferior Hadouken to Ryu,
Sure.
but his Shoryuken produced a fire fist.
Yeah.
So his fist would catch on fire. And I was always torn between which one I thought was the cooler power. It's awesome to be able to shoot these epic projectile fireballs, but yet if you do land one of those Shoryukens, to me that's the most difficult of all of Ryu's moves to achieve, because
Yeah.
you have to do forward, down, and then in the middle, which I always thought was cruel to try to do as a button input. But if you can nail it with Ken, you'd get that fire fist. So it pretty much epitomizes how Nintendo is approaching these Echo Fighters, where Ken and Ryu are identical. What they do, their moves are identical. They're not just, they're pure clones, but they have those slightly different, nuanced, cosmetic changes and also balance differences with their flame effects.
Now, do you feel like because of that he is in fact going to be an Echo Fighter? Do you think it's kind of like an absolute shoo-in, or do you think Nintendo is going to hold back on third party?
You know, with all these Echo Fighters, I could see how it would be an obvious choice if they were going to go that route, but I guess I'm more leaning towards not. I'm more leaning toward, I would like it if they did. I think it would be cool to have another great character in the roster, but at the same time, when we're talking about third-party characters, I feel like Nintendo does need to be a lot more selective about who they let in, because it is a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
If you're a guest character, that is an unbelievable distinction. It is more of an honor to be included in Super Smash Bros. Than it is to be included in a sequel of your own series. So, to put...
That's a big statement.
I stand by it, because Nintendo does not just arbitrarily add characters. They're not like, hey, people would like to play as Ryu, let's put him in here. People like to play as Sonic or Pac-Man. These are legends.
Yeah.
These characters are big deals. So you don't have a single third-party character that doesn't have a complete and utter justification for their inclusion. But Echo Fighters, the justification for their inclusion is that they are very similar to the base character.
Yeah.
And I don't really think that in all cases that warrants them being added. So I could see maybe even skins over, like homages to those other characters by giving Ryu a red gi.
Yeah.
I might be tempted personally if it was my decision. I would probably really try to limit the third-party characters that I get in. So I'm not going to shed any tears if Ken gets added. I think it will be great,
Yeah.
and I'll play... You could basically have a Street Fighter match in
That is
Smash
very
Brothers,
true, which
if
is
you have-
amazing.
which is amazing. It's unthinkable. And I don't know if they like that or if that is a strike against him.
I think they do, but my thought process on this one is this, and this is my only thing that I can say. If Richter Belmont can get in as an Echo, I think anybody can. I really do, and that's not a shot at the Castlevania series, but that one came so far out of left field that I honestly feel that Ken could possibly come in.
Well,
as
here's where... Now, I'm not arguing with you because I think that you are right in a lot of ways, but the Castlevania series really has two different chapters. They have the action side-scroller, and they have the Metroidvania style, to use a coin term. And each of them are individually representative of those styles. So your classic Castlevania, where you're moving from left to right, and, well, I guess sometimes you move right to left. You're basically in a side-scrolling action game where your main purpose is to beat up monsters and then ultimately beat up a boss.
Yeah.
And that's Simon Belmont. He epitomizes that. And then in the other style, you have RPG elements, you have leveling up, you have a non-linear path where there's multiple different branching paths that you can go to complete your game. And Simon Belmont is not very representative of that. So they're finding a way to use Castlevania to appeal to both retro players like myself,
Yeah.
and then more new school players like my brother is. He's 8 years younger than me, and he is much more into new Castlevania than I ever got into, and he didn't play old school Castlevania quite as
Sure.
much. Where Ken and Ryu are contemporaries. Every game, they've both always been in it. They are both always rivals in the classic sense, where they have the same teacher, they have the same style, they do the same everything except hairstyle. And it's really awesome in their games that they can kind of go head to head with the very subtle and slight differences, but to see that in Smash,
Yeah.
that would be trippy. I would like it and it would be cool, but it would be a little bit strange.
Well, there you have it. That's our thoughts on this potential new Echo Fighter. Mostly your thoughts, not necessarily mine, because again, I have very little to say on this subject. I am definitely going to be taking the lead on some of the other episodes coming up, but let us know what you guys think about the potential of Ken being a Echo Fighter for Ryu in the comments down below. And if you want to read our written thoughts about this, the amazing, legendary Ricky Berg, one of Nintendo Wire's biggest Street Fighter fans, he actually wrote up a written piece about this Echo Fighter. You can find a link to that in the description down below. But there you have it. We'll be back with another episode of Echolocation on Smash Switch Speculation very soon. Until next time.
Thanks for playing.